The fleet industry is changing. You can feel it. More women are stepping into leadership, more voices are being heard, and more progress is happening across the industry. But at the same time, there are still moments where some of us walk into a room and feel like we have to prove we belong before we even say a word. So I wanted to get honest about that. For this episode of Shades of Fleet, I asked women across the industry what they've experienced, what support actually looks like, and what they're doing to help move the industry forward. And here's what they said. Let's start here. Fleet has come a long way, but there are still some old school mindsets that show up. Sometimes it's obvious, while other times it's subtle. Sometimes it's in the room before anyone even says a word. So I started by asking what they've had to navigate and how these women have learned to handle it.
I don't know if this counts as an old school vibe, but I do work in fleet. I work in a very male dominated industry, and I have a lot of especially gentlemen who I am working with, especially our customers. And if they accidentally curse in front of me or if they swear in front of me, they get very nervous about it and they think that they've wildly offended me. I am not offended. I can usually out-curse them, but it always does kind of make me laugh that we have that kind of chivalristic, gentlemanly way of not wanting to swear in front of me. I always find it very sweet, but I can probably outswear them right under the table, so it never actually bothers me.
Well, fleet is still a very male-dominated field, and being a strong-willed woman with a lot of knowledge, but also a strong personality, can sometimes come across as intimidating to people who don't know me yet. So over time, I've learned that building rapport and relationships makes a huge difference. Once people get to know me and they understand where I'm coming from, then the initial assumptions tend to fade over time. For me, it's always been about staying authentic, doing the work well, and letting people see the real person behind the role.
Like many women in leadership, I've experienced moments where assumptions were made before I even had the opportunity to speak or share my perspective. And over time, I've learned that consistency and preparation and confidence in your gut go a long way, and that you don't have to be the loudest voice in the room, and that results ultimately speak for themselves.
Fleet can still have moments where you feel like you have to prove that you belong in the room, especially when you're one of the few women at the table. Early in my career, I definitely experienced that. And what helped was focusing on really understanding the operation, knowing the data, and consistently bringing solutions forward. Over time, people start to see the value that you bring, and the conversation shifts from proving yourself to contributing as a trusted voice.
Over the past 5 years in the trucking industry, I've definitely dealt with some of like the old school vibes that come along with the industry. Especially being kind of up against two different stereotypes of being in a male-dominated field with trucking and with IT. So we definitely deal with being talked over, underestimated, and even just getting stereotyped in general. And I've always challenged that and kind of approached any of those challenges calmly and just been able to kind of prove people wrong and show them that I do deserve to be in this space, and what I have to say and what I can give to the company is worth having around.
In my career, I've been overtalked and underestimated, probably more times than I would care to admit otherwise. I think that a lot of the path forward for me was getting to a place where I understood that I wasn't going to be able to change every person in the room, that I would more often than not be the only woman in the room. And as a result of that, I knew that I had to change the way I thought about things. And the biggest one for me was to stop waiting to be comfortable, right? I've needed to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And oftentimes when I'm working with students or people that I'm being a mentor to, that is the very first talking point that I bring up. How comfortable are you being uncomfortable? And the quicker you can find comfort around the unknown, the better off it will be for you as you try to impact change in your business, on your team, in your industry at large. And so one of the best things for me was understanding that you could feel you have imposter syndrome, or you can feel that you're not quite ready because you don't know all the things yet. I had to get comfortable being okay with not knowing all of the things. But I had confidence and trust in myself that I would figure it out.
I find myself living at the intersection of two historically male-dominated fields, transportation and technology. As a result of that, I'm often the only woman in the room, and with a background in technology, I often feel that I need to prove myself. Even at one point being referred to as a little lady by a customer on a call, which we really need to shift away from that old school mindset and recognize that women should have a seat at the table and definitely be in leadership positions.
So my team actually consists only of men who are almost 10 to 15 years older than me. That was a challenge going in. I knew that would be a hurdle that I would have to face. It's not the first time that I have been put in this position before. And a lot of the way that I manage that is by, first of all, speaking at their level. I don't get offended by slips of the tongue, being called honey or sweetheart. That stuff doesn't really bother me. And I don't think that it negatively affects how I'm perceived. Because when I approach my team, I always approach them with the respect and the knowledge that I have. And through that competency, my team can see that I'm serious about what I do. I'm serious about their success, and I'm serious about everything that they bring to the table too. If they feel supported, it doesn't matter what your gender is. It doesn't matter who you are. All that matters is that they know that you're going to be supporting them, and that they can rely on you to make sure that their voices are heard as well.
I have worked for companies and management in the past that very much tried to keep me out of the technician role. I've had managers who have tried to coerce me into working behind the parts counter because they think it would be easier for me, or, suggesting I take a sort of front desk admin role, and, any type of position that involves doing paperwork all day is, kind of what I was always tried to be pushed into. And I had to set my foot down quite a lot and tell them that this is what I wanted to do and this is where I wanted to be. Probably for the first 5 years of my career, I was kept at an entry-level technician role. I would beg and beg for training, and I would never receive it. I would try to watch the higher level techs and learn from them, and I would always get pulled away from it. And it was just overall a really horrible experience for about the first 5 years of my career. But as I kind of taught myself and grew my skills, it became easier. But working for this company, being mobile and having the kind of freedom and every resource imaginable has really made me find a newfound love for being a technician. I've always had to fight for my role and fight for a right to be here and be on the same playing field as everybody else.
You want to talk about old school vibes? When I stepped into the trucking industry, the message, spoken or unspoken, was pretty clear. Women aren't leaders here. And honestly, I heard it, I felt it, and I wasn't imagining it. But here's what I decided early on. I wasn't going to fight that perception with words. I was going to prove it wrong with my work every single day. I pushed through the doubt. I pushed through the rooms where I was underestimated. And every time something inside me said, maybe you don't belong here, I came back with one answer: I will do it. Not I'll try, not maybe, I will. That mindset is what got me to where I am today as Director of Billing for Cox Fleet. And it's something I carry with me into every challenge I face, every team I lead, and every barrier I see someone else up against. The industry is changing, and I'm proud to be a part of that change.
My pet peeve is if people speak down to me. That is a trigger for me. And so what I've done to combat that is I make sure that I am knowledgeable. I will do the homework. I will try to figure out how to have a good working knowledge of the subject matter that I am in order to make sure that I can command respect. I have also been a person who is direct. And so when I experience something that is negative in behavior, one of the things that I have done is make sure I call it out, because I think sometimes people are not aware of the things that they are doing that are creating a negative experience. And so I think it is very important that if you have the political capital or you feel comfortable in speaking up, to really speak to people about that behavior and how they're showing up and how it's coming off to you, in order for them to have the opportunity to change that perception in the future. I find something humorous that I can kind of soften the blow at times in order to have the serious conversation. And so I feel like that puts people in a comfortable place.
What's one old school vibe that I've had to navigate? It's one that still has to be navigated in the industry at large. And that is, for some reason, we are still unwilling to broaden who we see as mechanics or fleet professionals. Images don't have representation. Job titles are not neutral or have representation. And I've worked with groups that are literally offended at the idea of taking man out of a title. And I believe if we want to move forward in this industry and really branch out to new potential talent, we need to be more inclusive, less exclusive. We can call somebody a worker. They don't have to be a something man. Our young people are smarter than that, and they deserve better than that.
There's always been this old school mindset of, females don't belong in the shop or out in the field. And, we're getting to the point where there's practically no trace of that anymore.